In this video, I'm going to break down exactly when it makes sense to quit your 9 to 5 job and start selling on Amazon full time. If you haven't started yet or you're already selling, I'll show you the key points to know when you're ready and the mistakes that you could make if you go all in too early. If you're really serious about making Amazon your main source of income, this is a video you need to watch before making the leap. We're going to start out with kind of just a checklist and a walkthrough of when you should quit the 9 to 5, replace it with Amazon. If you don't have a job right now when you're trying to start Amazon, that's okay too. Some of this will apply to you, but a few of the things won't apply to you. So the first thing that I thought about when trying to talk about this topic was, are you ready mentally? Have you ever had a job where you are in control of everything? You're your own boss. Can you make yourself work when you don't have to work? And that was, for me, a bit of a struggle when I was younger because I just didn't like to work. I didn't want to if I didn't have to. And that was before I really took Amazon seriously, that I thought that. And I had a couple other jobs that I did myself, like Instacart, DoorDash, and those kind of things that are a little bit of a mix in between fully self-employed, where you're running a business like this, and just kind of being able to work whenever you want to and make as much as you want to. Are you also okay with inconsistent income? That was one of the biggest things that bothered me for a while. After even I had 6 months, 8 months under my belt, was the fact that I had rent to pay, I had all of the other usual expenses like everybody else, and I didn't know how much I was going to make each month. There's no guarantee with this. If you don't put in the work, then you won't make money. And if you don't keep doing it, then it won't last. So are you okay with that? And also having, maybe even when you do put in the same amount of work, having a lower month because maybe some of the products just didn't sell as well that month compared to last month. Is that something that you can deal with? Are you prepared to work a lot in the beginning? And what I talk about sometimes in my videos and other times is how much I like not having to do as much now, where I can only work a couple hours a day, maybe less than a part-time job in some aspects, but that's not how it was in the beginning. When I was starting, I was working probably longer than a full-time job, just watching content, absorbing everything that I could and putting it into practice, sourcing all day long, just looking for new products. And as you do that, you're going to get more comfortable, know what to do, and have a better outlook on it so you can dwindle down the time that's spent on it. But it doesn't happen right in the beginning. If you think that you're going to be able to sell on Amazon and work 1 to 2 hours a day from day one, you have a bad understanding of what this job is actually like. It takes the hustle, self-management, and focus. All those things, those are like the biggest key points outside of what you actually have to do for the products. But if you don't have these mentally down, then it's going to be a really tough change for you. Don't quit your job before you start this. That is one of the biggest mistakes that people can make, because you need supplementary income to be able to pay for this business. Even though it is very low cost, around $250 a month, you still need income. You don't want to start yourself in a hole. It's not a quick cash machine. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not any of that kind of stuff where it's what a lot of gurus would say is like passive income. It does kind of resemble some aspects of that, but it's not something where you just put money into it one time and then it just keeps earning. You need to have proof of concept. And this is one of the things that I was looking for when I started, was I wanted to see sales happen. And once I saw a few sales happen in my first month, I went really hard the second month, which not a lot of people do, and I wouldn't really recommend it. But I, in my first month, spent maybe like $2,000-3,000 on inventory, saw that the sales were happening, saw that I made money, and then the second month I dumped like $25,000-30,000 on a credit card into a ton of product. And when I was telling people that, it kind of scared some people that I knew personally, not anybody that was familiar with the business, so maybe that's why. But once I saw the proof of concept, I went all into this, and then just it unraveled from there and just kept going. So I wouldn't recommend dumping 30,000 or 25,000 on a credit card in your second month, but gradually increase it once you see something start to happen. If you find a product that you buy 5 units of and it sells in a day or 2 days, go back and buy 20 of them, 25 of them, and send that in and do it smaller increments, because you will get there, and you multiply that over different products, but don't go all in if you don't know what you're doing. You need consistent sales for at least 3 months. Some people like 6 months, depending on kind of how you look at it and maybe how nervous you are about quitting your job and replacing it. Personally, I wanted 3 months. Once I saw that I had 3 months of income that replaced what I was doing or made more than it, I stopped doing everything else that I was doing and focused all on Amazon business. Because if you can replace it, it isn't guaranteed, but you know what to do. You've done it enough months in a row every day to make that happen, that you can easily repeat that same process, do it more, and increase. You need to have a good way to find products also. And I would recommend either watching free content on sourcing. I have a lot of videos where I source through products and show the methods that I use. And you don't need a ton of methods. You can use SellerAmp to storefront stock people all day long and find enough products to make this into tens of thousands of dollars in sales. Stability and consistency matter more than 1 month. That goes back to what we were talking about for 3 months, because a lot of people will get really excited when they see 1 month worth of sales come in, made a lot of money in 1 month, and then decide to quit their job. But maybe then they can't repeat it because they haven't done it enough and gotten the muscle memory in their brain to figure this kind of stuff out. And that goes especially if you start in Q4. If you start in, November, December, those are the biggest months of the year for Amazon. And you could easily hit a $10,000 profit month or more in December if you get a lot of product in. But that doesn't carry over to January, February, March, because after Q4, Q1 is one of the slower periods of the year for Amazon. And a lot of people see a big drop off from December sales to January and even sometimes February, because there's not many holidays around there. There's not sales getting thrown all the time for us to be able to find good products. That goes into more of like, how can you make products good with the other things that we talk about? But it's not just handed to you like Black Friday and all of those other kind of Christmas sales. So if you start at this time of year in a couple months or so, you might want to extend that 3 months to January, February, March also. You need to have an emergency fund. That is another huge thing that I tried to get in right when I started, because with it being the fact that no income is guaranteed, like if you have a W-2 job or a regular 9 to 5, you know your hourly pay rate, you know your set schedule or how many hours you're guaranteed every single week. You can project your income out and know that, like, okay, if I take off this day or a couple days, this is how much money I'm going to be left over with, because that's easy math to do your hourly rate times the amount of hours that you're going to work. But with Amazon, you don't have that. You don't know how much you're going to make exactly every single day, every single week. So it could come down to where you don't have enough for 1 month and you need to pay something cash, but then you make it the next month to pay yourself back. That could very well happen, especially when you're starting out and you don't have much money saved up in the bank account for the business to be able to use if you needed to use it. You need to keep personal debt low also, especially credit cards, for that same reason as what I was just saying about the bills for the emergency fund. The other thing with that is Amazon's payouts in the beginning don't happen as often as they do when you're selling for a while. When you start, you're going to get your money held for longer than what I have it held for now after selling for 3 years. They have something called account level reserve, where they're going to hold your money for refunds, chargebacks, non-delivered orders, anything like that where they need to repay the customer. They're going to hold your money for a certain period of time. It's not forever, but it is a good amount of time to where your payouts might come once every 2 weeks in the beginning. And for me, I can request payments every single 24 hours if the money is there available. So that is also something to consider with this and why you would want to have some cash built up. If you're working a regular job at the same time, like I was talking about before, don't quit your normal job, then you might not need to do this right away, and you can build this with the money that you make from Amazon while you're still doing both jobs. It's completely up to you, but I wouldn't recommend quitting right off the bat and just going all in on this unless you don't have responsibilities that you need money for. You need to also put into retirement, put some money away. And we're going to talk about the 50-30-20 split for what you should do with your money that you get, because regular jobs, you get a 401k. You get retirement help from the employer. But with Amazon, you're on your own. Definitely need to know your numbers. I've talked to some sellers that are newer or in the game for around 6 months, and they maybe don't know their exact numbers on how much they've made. And there's a couple softwares that I've talked about that can give that to you and help you with that, so that way you're not running through credit card statements and trying to add everything up and figure out what's left over. It will tell you every single month, so you can draw from the business, and so you can actually see, this is how much I made, this is what I am actually expecting for the previous months. Are you actually running it like a business, or are you treating it like a little side hustle? It kind of just depends on how serious you want to take this. If it's not something that you can see yourself doing full time, then don't quit your job for it. You need to have systems in place, like prep system, sourcing system, like we talked about. You need to know where your inventory is going to go. Are you using a prep center? Know the fees with that if it happens that way. If you have an in-house person like I do, know how that system's going to be set up, or if you're just doing it yourself. You need to have those answers so that way you can know what your processes are like. You need to also have clear tracking, accounting, and inventory management. And I've made videos on all of that. So if you want to know more about that stuff, go check out the other videos on my channel for that kind of stuff, because we're not going to go deep into it on this video here. And then the last point is just the exit plan. You need to transition slowly, like we've been talking about. You could go part-time, or maybe you have a lot of paid time off that you could use, vacation days, sick days, that you can cash in before you actually quit. And not when I was doing Amazon, but when I was younger, coming out of high school, I did have a job that I was planning on leaving, and I had a lot of sick days, vacation days, and I asked them, can I just use these for a week and then you can mark me as unemployed, because I was leaving the job, and they agreed to do that. So definitely check that with your employer. Everybody is different. Some people might not like that if you are going to quit. So maybe you have to tell them you want to take those days and not let them know that you're going to quit, and then just do that. But it kind of just depends on your situation. Wouldn't recommend screwing anybody over though. Basically a summary of what we've been talking about, 3+ months. And then if you do have any questions about your accounting stuff, always reference to a tax professional or an accountant. You can usually do one-off appointments with a lot of them and just have them take a look over everything as well if you aren't sure exactly what you're looking at when you're looking at the statements and everything like that. So I've referenced the 50-30-20 rule here, and this is something that's widely known and talked about, but I just wanted to break it down because I didn't know about it when I was first starting out on Amazon. And it's basically just a split of your income. So your income at the top, you have percentages for 50% for needs, 30% for wants, 20% for savings. And this is a blueprint that a lot of successful people follow, and it's an easy way to figure out what to do with your money. Because at a point, I was sitting looking at a lot of profit from Amazon, and I had no idea what to do with it and how to budget it correctly. So that way, this thing really helped right here. So needs are considered like rent, mortgage if you have a house or an apartment, your utilities, your food, healthcare, health insurance, other insurance, going with the car payments too, car insurance, the things that you need to survive and live, those are considered needs, and 50% of your income should go to that. And something else that ties into this is a lot of people recommend not putting your rent or your mortgage over 30% of your income. So the rest of this would kind of be 20%. This would be 30%. Or if it's less, this can be more. It just kind of fills into the 50%. But 30% for your rent and mortgage is just so that way you don't get strapped down and worry about not having enough money to do the rest of your life, because you're just throwing it all towards rent. If you make only $2,000 a month and you go sign a lease for $1,500 or $1,700, not really a good situation that you're going to get yourself into. Wants is everything else outside of this that you don't need but would like or could use but don't need it. Non-essential clothes, traveling, eating out because you can just go to the grocery store and get it way cheaper, so it's not necessary. Your hobbies, other things that you do outside of work and entertainment, concerts, sporting games, stuff like that. The savings part is very important because, like I said earlier, we don't have somebody that's throwing money into an account for us to help us retire. It's all on you. And if you don't prepare for this, you don't want to be selling on Amazon for the rest of your life when you're older. You want to do this business so that way you can not have to work. Emergency fund, retirement, short-term goals, long-term goals, like maybe you're saving up for a house or a down payment for a house, something like that. Those fall into the short-term, long-term goals. Bigger things that you want to achieve but aren't necessary right this minute. And I'm going to show you an example of a budgeting system that I used to be able to prepare for living on my own, doing Amazon. Because when I started, I was living at my parents' house, and I wanted to know exactly how much I needed to make in order to achieve the goal that I wanted to. So that way, when I was looking at the first 3 months of my income, or 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, depending on how long you want to do it for, you know exactly what you need to hit. And that way you're not guessing. And then you think you have enough and it turns out you don't. So this is my just easy template budget that I set up. And you can easily make something just like this to where you can see everything. So I've got money in here, Amazon, just threw a number in here, $4,000. That's what you either make after you have income, you put that in here, or if you're planning, put in what you think you need, and you can always change it afterwards. Then in this red box here, we've got our bills. So rent, renter's insurance, utilities for wherever you live, car insurance. If you have a car payment, add that in here too, but I've owned my car for a while now, so I didn't need to put this in here. Wi-Fi, because you need Wi-Fi in order to do this business. Gas for your car, food budget. Throw all of those numbers in here by monthly expense. And then what I did was just do a sum of this. This is on Apple program, so you can easily do this in Excel to do the same sum command and just add them all together. Then I divided that by 4 to see how much did I need every single week in order to do those bills. Then I broke it down by what is actually due, because gas and food are necessities, but they're not on a time clock where it's a certain day that you have to pay it. So I broke that down into things that were actually due and not just whenever I needed them. Then this is also split down by 4. So that way you can know, if you're curious, exactly what you do need every single week to not be late on any payments or anything. Then what I did was just take all of this stuff here, times it, add it up, and times it by 3. You could do 6 months, but an emergency fund, you want to know exactly how much you need, so that way you're set. You don't want to guess and just say, oh, I need $5,000, and maybe your expenses are 7, maybe they're 8. You don't want to be short if it comes down to it. Then I personally wanted to know how much money I had left over. So I took the total expenses that I had, subtracted by how much I made every month or wanted to make. And it gave me how much I had total weekly. And then I did it for the ones that are on the calendar, which are right here, these 5 right here. So that way I knew for what's actually due again, how much I had after that, because maybe I wanted to spend a little bit more on food, or maybe I drove my car more one month than another. So I know what the cushion is in here. Then something that is not necessary to know, but may be helpful, is you can do a percentage of your income. So you take your expense and you divide it by your income, and it tells you what the percentage of that expense is in your total amount that you make. So if you're trying to target 30% for rent, like a lot of people suggest, you can play with this number and see what your income is, and then put in maybe, I don't know, $1,300 here, and it drops to 33%. You could throw in, just to see where you get your 30%, and that would be $1,200. So if you really want to stick to that, you know, if you make $4,000 a month off Amazon, that you can realistically afford a $1,200 apartment, which may be a little hard to get depending on where you live and everything. But this is a good tool to be able to figure that kind of stuff out. These ones aren't so important, but you can, I just threw them in there for examples, so that way you could see more of it and then see whatever top categories you have, how much of your income is actually being taken by those bills. So to kind of wrap it up here, don't stress too much about doing this. You'll know when the time is right. You'll know when you should quit your job to be able to do this based off seeing the proof and what we've gone over in this video here. It's not a lifestyle that everybody can handle, and it is definitely something to seriously consider, though, if you are tired of working the 9 to 5 and you want something that's going to make you more money and be something that you can control fully: hours, how much you work, how much you make, and all of that kind of stuff. If you guys have any questions about anything I talked about in the video, or you want to know more about how I decided to quit my 9 to 5 to sell on Amazon full-time, leave a comment down below, or you can DM me on Instagram. There's also a link in the description if you want my help during this transition or want me to show you one-on-one how to do it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.